Now, for more on the Bank of Korea's latest rate decision, we're joined today by Professor Song Soo-young, professor at the College of Business and Economics at Chung-Ang University. Professor Song, thanks for coming on today.
Good morning to you, and thank you for inviting me.
So this is the central bank's first rate-setting meeting under its new governor, Shin Hyun-song, since he took office last month. What are your thoughts on today's decision?
I think the current decision made immediately just a moment ago is a very expected one and anticipated one, and also considering the current situation, how the Middle East crisis will be played out in the future, and also considering the Korean economic situation in light of some K-type recovery or performance of the economy, even though we have witnessed a very high performance of the Kospi and the stock market, and the asset market is working very well. But however, there is a clear divergence within the labor market. And so considering that situation, the current choice of the freeze of the 2.5% rate is a very necessary choice. And also considering the general tendency of some countries who have suffered some energy shortage has shown some increased cycle of the government interest rate. However, some other countries such as Mexico and some who has already higher level of interest rate, they have shown the decrease of the interest rate. So depending upon each different country's specific economic situation, the central bank must choose the interest rate discretionary, considering the economic situation they face.
All right, and some analysts say stronger than expected growth and persistent inflation risks could ultimately lead the Bank of Korea into a full-fledged cycle of hikes beginning later this year. What's your take on this?
I don't think this is going to be all the countries simultaneously increase the high cycle, because as I mentioned earlier, different country has different situation, because this Middle East war crisis is very volatile, but however, it should be contained. And also the United States and Trump and Iran is going to they are going to make a deal of some peace deal in whatever form. So, but however, what we should be cautious about the wage change in the country, in the different countries, and some people's expectation of the inflation pressure, and then particularly the supply side, the pricing behavior would matter very much over the following several months, the inflationary movement. So I strongly would like to urge the Bank of Korea, they should have taken into account of the labor market situation, particularly because current situation, unemployment rate Korea is relatively low, 2.8% or something, but vacancy rate is also rising. So therefore, as a result, then this is a very divergent situation in the labor market, who had shown earning very much, and on the other hand, the low and the middle income, they feel the strain of the economic situation right now.
Right, and in the stock market, Korean stocks continue to soar, and SK hynix actually became the second Korean company to pass $1 trillion in market cap following Samsung Electronics. This makes South Korea the only country other than the United States with at least two companies in the trillion-dollar club, right? What significance does this carry?
Yeah, clearly this is a good news for the South Korean overall economy, and we have achieved the $1 trillion value the companies in the world. Actually, the other country who has this $1 trillion value company is Saudi Arabia, Aramco, and the other one is TSMC in Taiwan. Most of the other 10 companies, including Tesla and other NVIDIA, belong to United States. So this is good news. However, what we must take into account is our economy, the size and the population and the total economy size is in comparison to other some big countries and some advanced countries, such as considering the European Union, still we relatively we are smaller than those countries' economic situation. So we should not be too over elated about this achievement because this is a very maybe end up with a very temporary and transient situation because this is only depends upon some very good performance in the semiconductor industry and then long-term demand for some DRAM and some HBM, such as some supply of the supply shortage of the memory is really is a good situation for the two Samsung and the SK hynix. However, we must be very cautious of to take care of the some bottom side and middle side. I mean, middle position or people in our economy.
Right, and Korea's biggest company by market cap, Samsung Electronics, averted a strike this week that threatened to impact the entire Korean economy after unionized workers voted yesterday to approve a wage deal, right? But the union remains largely divided over pay gaps between business divisions. What do you think are the remaining risks?
I believe because anyway the deal was made, and so this actually stops some 18 days potential strike for Samsung Electronics. But however, we have seen there's some huge increase, a surge of the profitability of Samsung and SK hynix. Particularly, this strike occurs because of some disparity between the Samsung and SK hynix wage over the particular about the some bonuses related with linked with some performance of those companies. So even though some other big companies and the unions consider some new negotiation and the wage increase, but this cannot be spread out all over the economy. So considering the situation, this I expect is going to be some transient and a temporary situation. So I do not much concerned about the wage setting problem rather than what I'm most concerned is this kind of the hike of the wage does not guarantee the permanent increase of income. So I don't think the overall demand or will be increased to threaten the runaway inflation to follow in the next several months. Therefore, I strongly urge the Bank of Korea should be cautious, even though the other countries tend to increase the interest rate. They should remain calm and then take care of the labor market situation and then to take care of the increased some growth rate for the economy. That is a very important lesson to be learned from this recent happening in the Samsung Union.
I see. All right, Professor Song, thank you so much for your time and insight today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.